Good evening and welcome to A Human Being. I am your host, Dwayne Wiggins Jr., and I am so thrilled that you are joining us tonight. Before we kick off the show, I want to give you an opportunity to get to know me a little bit more. So sit back and relax and enjoy these questions and answers before we get into the show.
To inspire, to uplift, different people share their gifts. A safe space and open door on a journey to explore human beings.
Well, I was born and raised in Florida. I've had an opportunity to live quite a few places because my uncle, who was in the military, allowed me to live with him at a certain time as well. So had an opportunity to live in California, also in Rhode Island. I moved to Pennsylvania in 2008, and I've been living here ever since. I think it's going on 16 years now. Yeah. My favorite hobbies and pastime. I don't really have a lot of hobbies, but what I do enjoy, I love writing. Like, it's my passion. I love to storytell. I love to create characters. In my favorite pastime, I love to try new restaurants. I'm always open and down to, just go hang out with my friends, go to a new restaurant, hang out with my family, and try different places. I also like Ratchet TV. The ratcheter, is that right? I don't know. The more ratchet, the better. I'll say it like that. The more ratchet, the better. You give me love in hip hop. You give me basketball wives, all the housewives. I am so into that stuff. I don't really know what it is. I just love it. It's like my favorite time to just really lay down, relax, and watch TV. I guess I really enjoy things like after a long week or a long day, I don't want to think. So those shows don't require me to think. Like, they're pretty much what they are. So I really love Ratchet TV. Wow, that's a great question. So who has had the most influence in my life? I will say there's a lot of people that have had great influence. I am a learner of life, so I love to learn from different people. But when I really think about individuals who have impacted me in such a great way, there's four people for different reasons, for multiple reasons. Both of my grandmothers, one for the church aspect and one for the life aspect. My grandma Pee Wee has impacted me most in my spiritual walk, and my grandma Lois has impacted me most in my life walk. But then I also think about two men that are in my life, and one is my uncle Stacy, who has passed on. We share the same birthday. He was so impactful in my life in many, many reasons, and many reasons that you'll see later on in the show and episodes to come. But he really was a person that I can be my authentic self around with no judgment. And he really, really just loved me, and he was such a father figure in my life. A lot of things that I've experienced in life was because of him. People have called me bougie and all of this stuff, and a lot of it is because of him, because he's always taught me not to settle for things. He's always allowed me to experience the finer things of life, and so I've always been a person to go after what I deserve or what I won't tolerate. So I'm not going to go with people that don't want to split the bill, or I'm not going to go to a restaurant that, are giving me paper napkins. Like, I'll go to a diner every now and then, but I'm not going to go there, because my uncle has always instilled in me that I don't have to be a representation of where I came from, that I can always go for the best. He even taught me how to cut my first steak, or, my first 5-star hotel and restaurant and stuff like that. So I've always went for the best because he showed me that I deserve the best. And the other male that has been in my life is my mentor, a person that I really, really look up to, Robert Wesley Branch. He has the Robert Wesley Branch Show, and that's where I first really started hearing my voice and having an opinion and building a platform where I can be with others and be heard and share. And Robert has said a lot without saying a lot, and he said a lot bystand a lot, if that makes sense. But he has so impacted me in such an amazing way because he's given me opportunities that no one has ever given me. And Robert has always seen me. He has always allowed me to be myself. And although we've never met in person, we've worked together over the years on his show, and he has always given me a place to come back, and he's always poured into me and encouraged me, and he is just such an amazing person in my life. So I'm grateful for him as well. What inspires me? I'm really inspired by life. I mean, I look forward to waking up in the morning. I look forward to going to work with my students every day. I look forward to being able to be there for my household. I look forward to being there for my friends and my family. So I'm really inspired by the opportunity that I have to be able to be there for people. So I just know that I'm inspired by storytelling. I'm inspired by, just individuals. I'm working on my PhD in human behavior, and I'm fascinated with humans, not in a creepy way, but I'm fascinated with, as people are moving along their lives every single day, like what motivates them. So I'm inspired really just to get to know people and to just converse with them every single day. People really do inspire me just for being who they are. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Tonight's episode is a very special episode because we are talking to individuals that are taking the leap or have taken the leap. And what that simply means is that they found faith to conquer a fear and be able to step outside of the box and follow their dreams. Tonight, my special guest is Shanna McKoy and Dr. Keima Sheriff. Tonight, my first guest is Shanna McKoy. She is my friend, my co-worker, someone over the years that I have just really grown to love. I am so happy to have her here with me tonight on A Human Being. Shanna, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me, Dwayne. This is a pleasure.
It is such an honor. Shanna is a mother of 3. She's been in education for 22 years. And recently we were having a conversation and talking about a variety of things. But Shanna shared something with me that I said, you have to come on and share this testimony and share this leap of faith story with the viewers that are following A Human Being. So tonight's episode is about leap of faith, taking a leap of faith, taking a leap of faith, however you want to say it, but it's taking the leap that has gotten you into the place of success that you are in now. So Shanna, tell the viewers a little bit about yourself tonight.
Sure. So I'm originally from Connecticut, Bloomfield, Connecticut, small town. And I, grew up there, went to high school there. And once I was in high school and started researching different colleges I may want to attend, I didn't want to go to University of Connecticut because all of my, high school friends were going there. I didn't want a 13th year of high school. So I didn't want to go that close. And then I didn't want to go too far where it was a plane ride and I couldn't call home and be home in less than 4 hours. So I settled on Temple. I did some research. I had some people that, were also interested in Temple. A friend of mine that I graduated with, she applied as well. And then, just some influential people from Bloomfield that talked about Temple. So I settled on Temple, graduated with an education degree. And once I graduated in 2001, I never went back to Connecticut, although, a lot of my family wanted me to. My grandmom, especially from Virginia, she was like, Shanna, you just need to go back to Connecticut, be with your family, live in your mom's basement. I was like, no, thank you. That's not what I'm into. Not right now. Not at 22. So, yeah, a lot of people that I went to high school with, they were having babies, and that just wasn't in my future at that moment. I was like, yeah, let me just stay in Philly, be on the scene for a little bit, just enjoy my, my young adultness. And yeah, I just stayed around. So I started working right after I graduated. I started working at an Catholic school, teaching fifth grade my first year, fourth grade my second year, and it was challenging to say the least. It was something that I don't think Temple or a lot of colleges get you ready for, but like working in an urban school. So, but I got through it. Ended up after those 2 years working at a charter school in the Northeast, where I taught for 10 years, second grade.
Wow.
During that time, I got married. And once I got married, as soon as you get engaged, people say, "Oh, when's the wedding?"
Uh-huh.
So then as soon as you get married, it's, "Oh, when's the babies?" And so I did have a lot of people, a lot of family members, friends asking, "Oh, so when's the baby coming? When y'all trying? When's it coming?" Over and over and over again. And honestly, I wanted to start right away.
Oh.
And we kind of did start right.
I love that. I love that. But so I want to ask you this, because you did talk about education, and I know that you've been in education for 22 years, and you moved from Connecticut down to Philadelphia to go to Temple. Shout out to Temple. And what drew you to education?
So actually, in high school, when I was talking to my high school counselor, I decided that I wanted to pursue fashion marketing. So that's what I started off as.
Okay.
Like, I wanted to be a fashion marketer or like a retail buyer, because I was like, oh, I think I would like that. That would be a fun job. But then as time went on and it was closer to graduation, I was like, am I going to be helping anyone? Is this going to be rewarding for me? So then I started thinking about education. My aunt, my mom's sister, she's in education. And every summer I went to down south to stay with her over the summer. So she had a lot of influence on me becoming an educator.
Nice. So you went through the process. You've been teaching for 22 years, but in the beginning of the years, you got engaged, you got married, people started asking questions about children.
Yes.
And what started to happen next?
So honestly, I would first start off with saying to any of the viewers, don't pressure people that just got married or when they're having a baby.
Right.
It's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. And, if you don't understand, like, just asking the question, that sometimes it puts a lot of pressure on that person. Like, I am trying. I do want this, but it's just not happening right now. But I don't want to go into, that whole story.
So I want to talk about this too, because I know a lot of people getting married. I know a lot of people are going through those things of preparing for like families and things like that. So, but why do you think we live in this culture to pressure people, or the questions of when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? Why do you think people? What is the pressure behind that? Like, why do people do that?
I don't know. I think it's because they see in society like a certain order that it should go in. So, oh, well, you got married, so next is a baby. So hurry up, make sure you get it done. But yeah, I think it's just how society views what order we should live our life, which is unfortunate. But
just mind your business. Mind your
right. Why are you worried about who's having
a business? And when we start having the kids, are you going to come babysit the kids?
Right.
That's the question.
That's the question. You going to pay for this formula?
Right, exactly. We need diapers, formula, all that kind of stuff. Stop pressuring people to have kids after they get married. Let them make that choice on their own. So I want to talk to you, because what tends to happen, I think, is that we start to feel this pressure, or people start to feel this pressure of, now that I'm married, and now I've been engaged, I'm married, and now it's time to start having a family. And the fortunate thing is that sometimes in that order, it does happen, and people can become women can become pregnant, or families begin to adopt, or whatever the case may be. But at this particular time, I want to focus on this, is that that wasn't necessarily your case. That although you tried and you were trying to get pregnant, like that wasn't your journey.
Mm-mm.
Let's set the foundation and begin to unpack this story for everyone that's watching.
Sure. So yes, me and my husband at the time, we were trying really hard. We tried different avenues. I was trying different techniques that I read online. I even worried about my diet, making sure that I was exercising because I didn't want that to be a factor. So, we tried everything, prayed about it. My friends, my family, they helped pray about it. And it just wasn't working out with the traditional methods. So what we ended up doing was some research into some infertility practices, and we came about Bryn Mawr Hospital. So Bryn Mawr Hospital had mainline infertility, and fertility, I'm sorry, and we researched a man named Dr. Michael Glassner. And Michael Glassner is a saint to our family because we started, just periodically going there, finding out research, and then we had to rev it up. So anyone
I want to talk about this, and I want to. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I want to go because I really want to unpack this for people. So when you say you started to do research, what were some of the things that you were researching? Like, what were some of the things? What did you find in your research to say, like, okay, we're going to research, and how did you end up from researching to Bryn Mawr?
Right. So honestly, I do have a soror that went through some fertility issues, and I confided in her a lot. I cried on her shoulders when, every month I found out bad news that I wasn't pregnant. And she gave me some ideas of some people to look into in the city. And then I just basically just Googled some different doctors, and that's how I came up upon mainline fertility.
Okay, so you make an appointment, you reach out to Mainline Fertility, you reach out to them, you make the appointment, you go to the appointment, and then what started to happen?
Right. So they just ask us a lot of questions about my health, about my history of, what ran in my family history, as well as my husband at the time. So he, had to go through the same types of questionnaires, same, exams and everything to make sure that both of us were, in standing to have a child on our own without any extra help.
Yeah, because one of the biggest myths, and we talked about this in like our pre-interview, like one of the biggest myths is that when it comes to IVF, is that infertility is always related to females. And the truth of the matter, that the fact is that it's related to male and female. So it's good for everybody. They're going to test everybody and find out family history for everybody. So you went through the testing. What happened after that?
So, Dr. Glassner, he suggested that we try IUI. So that is a procedure where they take the male sperm and they inject it. So it's kind of like a test tube that they just inject, or like a needle. And you wait, there's a lot. So what a lot of people may not know is with all of the fertility practices, you're going pretty much every day, every other day. So it's a lot of your time. It's a lot of explaining to people at your job because it is work. So it's work that you're missing. And although you don't want to be too explicit about what's going on, you do have to tell somebody at work like why you're missing so many days, so many hours.
And I'm sure people that don't understand it, they have questions.
Yes. So it was a few people at my job that asked too many questions and I had to
Mhm.
check them. But but for real. But yeah, so IUI, we tried that. It's a lot of, going back, them checking the levels and seeing what worked, what didn't work. We tried that, I believe, 3 times
Mm.
and it did not work. So what happened next was, after that third time, we were at the hospital or at the doctor's office, and we noticed Dr. Glassner a little down.
So before you go
And
into that, explain who is Dr. Glassner? What is his role in all of
okay,
this?
so Dr. Michael Glassner, he works for Mainline Fertility, and he is one of the lead physicians there. And it's him, and I believe it's two other males that are in the practice. I'm not sure if but that's what it was when we were there. And yeah, he's a saint. But
Wow, that's awesome.
but
And
so
and also I can imagine. I don't know a lot about this, and if more people want to jump in on the conversation in our comment section, please feel free. We're talking about taking a leap. That's the topic for this particular show, and we're talking to Shanna McKoy, who is sharing her story with us. So, but I can imagine that IVF, just from what I've heard in the streets,
mhm.
it can be very expensive to go through the process, and it can take a toll on your mental, physical, all of that. Talk about that aspect of it a little bit.
Sure. So, it's a lot of needles. It's a lot of, like I said, visiting to the hospital, to the practice, and it's a lot of money. So, the IUI is a little cheaper. That's why a lot of people start with that process first.
Mm-hmm.
But once we decided that, or once we found out that the third time didn't work, we started talking about other ideas, which is IVF. So IVF was pretty much like the last resort, other
Mm-hmm.
than maybe a surrogate. But my ex and I both knew that we didn't have the insurance, number one, to pay for that, or money on our own. So, also doing research around that, we found out that Botox was covered under our insurance, but IVF was not covered,
Mm.
or any of those types of processes, which made
Wow,
me, yeah, made me really upset about
I can
like the way
imagine.
that we treat it.
I can
Leading
imagine.
into hmm
Yeah.
Leading into even like once I found that out, I actually did a research paper in grad school about FMLA and maternity leave. So this just sparked a whole lot of interest in mothers and how they're handled, or parents in general, how they're taken care of in our country. So
Wow, and we have a long ways to go, and hopefully this time around, with this year being election year, somebody steps up and say we need to treat our mothers, our parents, and guardians correctly. That's just the
right.
bottom line. So this saint, Dr.
hmm
Michael Glassner. So you're in the office, you see him, you see that he's having a down day.
Yeah.
How did that affect
So
you?
So me and my ex, we were down. We realized it didn't work. The IUI didn't work. So I see him walking. I see Dr. Glassner walking, and I'm like, he's crying, and all the nurses keep hugging him and consoling him and saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry." So I asked my husband at the time. I'm like, what do you think's going on? You think somebody died in his family? What do you think? And he was like, I don't know. So it was still on my mind once we
Mhm.
left that appointment. And the next appointment is when I decided that I was going to purchase a thinking of you greeting card. I had no idea what was going on, but I knew it was something that was bothering him. And going through this process, we became friendly, because we see him like every day, every other
Mhm.
day.
Yeah.
So it becomes a family member at that time, at that point. So I gave him a card, and he just went in his office. We had to talk to the nurses. So then he called us into his office, and he was like, the IUI didn't work this time, and the only thing left is IVF. And so he was like, yeah, we know, but we can't afford that. Our insurance doesn't cover it. It's like, yeah, I understand. He was like, well, just want to tell you that this card meant the world to me. He said, after, just taking care of other people and making sure that they start a family, I lost track of my own. And after, I forget how many years, I want to say it was like 15. After 15 years of marriage, my wife wants a divorce. And that's what's going on with me.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. And it hit me because he was talking about, how he helps others. And
how ironic is it that he's quote unquote losing his family. You're trying to start a family, and he's working in the field where he sees these parents, husband and wife or whatever, they're coming in to begin families. How ironic is that, right? Like that.
Right.
Wow,
yes.
That's amazing. So you gave him this card, and it was a thank you. Like, what did you write in the card? Like, what did you?
It was just a simple, and after that experience, I started to pay a little bit more for cards because they're a little outrageous.
Right.
But it was just a 99-cent card, and it just said "thinking of you" on the front, and then the inside, I just said, we don't know what you're going through, but you're in our prayers. That's it, and that's all it took. Yes. So once we, explained to him, our insurance didn't cover the procedure, he was like, yeah. And he told us, what the card meant to us. He was like, so what I'm going to do for you all, since you were thinking about me, I'm going to pay for your IVF. And me and we were like shocked, like, stop playing.
Right?
Like, you lying. He was like, no, I really will. He was like, you have to take care of the anesthesia. You have to pay for that, but I got you covered.
That and we were like, is amazing. Wow. So in that moment, you're sitting there with your spouse at the time. What was going through your mind? What were you feeling for someone to say, knowing how much it costs, knowing that the insurance wasn't going to take care of it, and you really just did a simple act of showing kindness out of your heart, gave him a card, and this doctor said that I'm going to pay for your IVF. How did that make you feel in the moment?
Oh my goodness. I felt so blessed. But I was still in shock. Like, I didn't believe it right then and there. So until, we started going through paperwork and everything, I was just in shock. I couldn't believe that something so minute of giving someone a greeting card would offer this act of kindness.
That's
so
amazing.
It was amazing.
That's amazing.
I couldn't believe it. And we called our parents right away.
I bet. I would have been calling everybody. And good thing you're not one of those people that post on Facebook, we just got our IVF paid for it from our No. So okay. So you went through the IVF, you went through the process, and what happened after you did the paperwork and started going through the process?
So we did have more than one egg that, we saved and froze. That's also, I don't know if people realize that, but, that's also a process and a payment. So you have to pay for all of those eggs to be stored, and that's pricey too. Not as pricey as, the IVF, but it can get up there. It adds up. And I actually have a friend right now, because we talked about, me living my life when I graduated and, not returning back home, not starting a family. I have a friend that, she did just that. She has a great career right now. She focused more on her career, and now she's thinking about having children. So she has frozen eggs, and she had to get them transferred from where she used to live to Philadelphia. And it's a lot. And And the crazy thing is, I haven't talked to her in like 20 years, and I just reconnected with her, and she's going to Mainline Fertility.
Wow,
She's
that's
not seeing
amazing.
Dr. Glassner, but she's going to the same practice.
That
Crazy, right?
that's amazing. That's amazing. So you go through the process. IVF worked because you
Mm-hmm.
are a mother of three. So
Yes.
IVF worked. You went through the process. Did you find that during your pregnancy, your first pregnancy, did you find that you had any complications or anything that happened maybe from the IVF or just within yourself?
Mm-hmm. So just going back a little bit, when you're in the IVF process, like I said, there's a lot of needles and there's a lot of timing involved. So I want to say it's like a week or so before they say that you're ready, like you're fertile. You have to take a shot, and it has to be like at a certain time.
Mm.
So one of those times, my spouse and I, we were at his aunt's birthday party, and we had to go in the bathroom, and he had to shoot me shoot me in the butt
They're
because
not playing. Uh
it
huh.
had to be in that window, in
Mm-hmm.
that window. So that was the first experience of IVF. And so we went through that process. I was pregnant, I want to say it was about 3 or 4 months, and I was at
Mm-hmm.
work, and I went to the bathroom, and I was bleeding, and I cried. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on. I was so scared. So I immediately called my husband and the doctor. They said, hurry up, just come right away. So I left work, went there. They checked me out. Thank goodness everything was fine. So he was, Dr. Glassner again. He was like, just stay home. Everything's fine, but you need to stay home on bed rest for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Me being an educator, I was like, but there's a PD, a professional development tomorrow. I gotta be there. He said, you're not going. You're
Right.
staying on your couch, and that place is gonna be there tomorrow when
Mm-hmm.
you go, or
Mm-hmm.
next week when you go. He was like, don't worry about it. So that's what I did. I took my doctor's orders and I
Yes.
stayed home. Yes. So that was really the only time where I had a complication, other than, with my first, I was just going for a checkup, and they told me that I didn't have enough amniotic fluid. So
Mm-hmm.
they took me, I think it was like 3 weeks early, but no complications. No,
Okay.
I actually
So,
had a really good pregnancies, all of them.
oh, awesome. That's great. So, listen. So, you do IVF and you have trouble, and that was with your first child, correct?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes,
So
my
then
daughter.
there's child number two coming along.
Yes, yes.
Talk about that process because did you have to use IVF again? Did it happen naturally? Talk about child number two.
Yes. So I had my first daughter. She's 13 now. But yes, I had her, and I want to say when she was about two, maybe 1.5, we were still, in touch with Dr. Glassner, and he was like, okay, so you ready? Ready for the next one? And we were like, huh? What do you mean?
Right. You
He
know
was
something
like,
we don't know?
right. He was like, look, your family. I'm taking care of you. He was like, you ready for the next one? So we were like, sure. So Dr. Glassner ended up paying for the second IVF.
Get out of
Yes.
here.
Yes. So I
Wow.
had the eggs already because they were, stored
Uh-huh.
frozen, but still the process, you still have to pay for the actual process and the medication that goes along with it and everything. Luckily, this is another shout out to Mainline Fertility. They, any medication that isn't used by another patient, after they go through the IVF process, they store it and they donate it to other
Oh,
patients. Yeah,
that's
that
amazing.
may
That's
may not
awesome.
be able to pay for it. Yeah. So
Wow. Okay.
so that was, yep. So that was a blessing too. But yeah, he said, let's go for it. And we went through the process again. We
What
weren't
was your
as
mind
nervous
thinking?
this time.
What were you thinking? But
We weren't as nervous, but we still were nervous because it's still like he still has to pay.
yeah,
He's a doctor there, but we didn't want it to fail and
yeah,
then we waste his money. So
yeah,
we were nervous, but not as because we had a child already. So like I said before, it's a lot of pressure when you don't have children yet, and you keep getting the comments from everyone like
yeah.
when. So yeah, he paid for the next one. We went through the process. I had my son, no complications. He's now 12, a
That's so,
model.
that's awesome. I saw his little photo shoot, y'all. He's a model. He's not just saying that. He's not just saying that. But then you have child number 3.
Three, yes. So this was Hurricane Sandy, baby. So does everyone
It's something
remember?
about a hurricane, right?
We were all stuck in the house. But yeah, so not thinking about it, not worried about it, stressed about it, and one day I just found out I got pregnant
That's
with my
amazing.
third. Yes,
That is
and no IVF, no IUI, just natural, and no complications with her either. Actually, she was the only one I had morning sickness with.
oh, okay. That's so
But
awesome,
yeah,
though.
no complications, and it taught me that I just have to put it in God's hands.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. I read these articles, both of these, and you see I got my little sticky thing right there, my little thing right there to block it off. But I read these 2 articles about your story shared in these articles. It is just so amazing that how people are willing to give back. But I want to take it even a step further of what you did. And I think that what we miss in the world is just that act of kindness. We're so taught a lot of times to mind our business, or it doesn't have anything to do with me, or I see something and I don't speak on it, or I don't take the time. And really, and I'm not downplaying this by saying this, because what you did is major, but it really took a 99-cent card to impact someone in a way to want to give back to you that really impacted your life in such a major way. I want to speak really to kindness and that gesture of just taking a moment to show kindness and love to others. Why was that important for you to do that for him?
Well, it's just something that I would want in return. So my mom is very faith driven, faith based, and I just learned from her. Really, her and my sister, they are the world to me,
Oh,
and they are just constantly, giving without wanting anything in return. So
mm,
just seeing them over the years, like they basically they raised me. So
mhm.
just seeing how they treat others and how it's reciprocated, I just want to continue living my life that way. So
Yeah, I think that's so phenomenal. Like taking those moments to really just pay it forward. And I think that people think that a lot of times when you're paying it forward, you got to do like this grand thing. And sometimes it's simply just showing people love and that you care and that you see them. Like who doesn't want to be seen? Who doesn't want to be in a position of knowing that, oh, I'm hurting and you see me, so you do something in support of that. So kudos to you for that. And I really sincerely pray that you keep that same energy for the rest of your life. I know you to have that same energy. As I said in my intro, you are definitely someone that I consider my friend outside of work. We've hung out outside of work. We went to get something to eat. And I always tell people, I only try, like, I can be around a lot of people and people think like, oh, you have a lot of friends. I'm like, ask yourself, have I been to dinner with them alone? That will tell you if I've never been to dinner with you alone, that should
right.
question some things about our relationship. So I'm so grateful for this today. And I'm so grateful for you sharing that testimony and, talking about taking a leap because, even in your trying to get pregnant in the beginning, you could have said, It's just not going to happen. We're not going to do this. So for you to take a leap, what does that mean to you? Not necessarily just talking about pregnancy, but in life. Like, just speak on that a little bit, like the importance of, to those who may be watching, the importance of taking a leap or having that leap of faith.
So I believe you just have to, again, trust in God. And sometimes you have to just believe in yourself and not worry about what other people may question about your decision. So I am taking another leap of faith next week when I start a new course and possibly a new profession.
I love it.
On the side. But I've always wanted to do it, and I don't know, I was holding myself back. And I'm like, I'm about to turn 45. Why not? Why not just do it? Because you only live once.
That's
and
right.
You may not have this opportunity, down the line. So, honestly, I'm taking this course because I did lose a friend last year, same age as me, lived on the same floor freshman year at Temple, was my roommate a year, and I didn't expect to lose her so early, in our lives. I expected to grow old with her, and she taught me, just to go out and try anything. So I'm thinking about a quote that Vashti Turley Murphy said. And she said, what could you do if you could not fail? So I try to keep that in the back of my head. Like, I'll just try it. And, if I fail, I fail. But I don't want to put that in the forefront. I want to just try it.
And listen, even if you do fail, it won't be because you didn't try. And I often tell people it's a no if you don't try. Like, it's already a no.
Right.
So what's really the worst that could happen? You can go out there and you can't get lower than a no. Like, you can't get lower than I failed, So I want to give a shout out to you for just really stepping out, trying something new. I wish you all the best with whatever you do. I think whatever you do, you're going to be amazing because you are just simply an amazing person. So, Shanna, I want to thank you again for joining me on A Human Being. And are there any final words that you would like to leave for the viewers?
No, just believe that, things will work out the way that they're planned to. God has a plan for you. So just take that leap of faith and just try it. Try anything.
I love that. Thank you so much, Shanna. Thank you to all of those who are watching. We'll be up with our next guest, and you are going to love her. Her name is Dr. Keimasheriff, and she has something in store for you. Thank you so much. We'll be right back. My next guest tonight is Dr. Keimasheriff. Managing organizational storytelling efforts and information sharing, Dr. Keimasheriff recently served as the Director of External Affairs for Health Sparks Foundation. Prior to this, Dr. Sheriff was a Dean of Holistic Support at Montgomery County Community College. She has over 20 years of professional experience and is an educator, program director, and administrator. She received a Bachelor of Arts for the combined study of psychology and political science at Albright College and earned a Master of Social Service and Program Planning, Development, and Advocacy from Bryn Mawr College. Dr. Sheriff received her doctorate in higher education from Immaculata University in January of 2019. Her dissertation, Finishing in Faith, an autoethnographic exploration of the intersections of faith and doctoral program completion, examined how Black Christian women applied their faith as a persistent strategy to complete their doctoral program. She hopes to use this research to advance strength-based research and persistence and completion initiatives to support goal and project completion. Dr. Sheriff, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really do appreciate you here. Welcome.
Thank you, Dwayne. Listening to all of that, I'm like, well, who is it?
I know you guys. I am going to share her bio because there's a lot of interesting things that Dr. Sharif has done on her journey of life. I'm just so grateful to have you here, Dr. Sharif. And tonight we are talking about taking a leap. So, Dr. Sharif, I want to jump right in and I want to leap right in and just talk to you when you hear about someone taking a leap, or when you hear the phrase "take the leap" or "taking a leap." What does that mean to you? What comes to mind for you?
Yeah, it is the epitome of faith in action, right? There is absolutely no way that you can say that you have a faith practice. Mine is Christian, but whatever your faith practice might be, there's no way that you can own that faith practice if connected to that faith practice there isn't an action, right? And so the action is believing that if you step out, your faith is big enough to catch you. And so I did a lot of faith leaping in my life because I come from an immigrant family. My mom and my father are both West African. My mother came to this country in her early 20s, took a huge leap of faith as a young woman to come here, had me, and just kept pushing in life. And I think the message that she gave us was that we're going to do this in faith. I don't see the money, I don't see the food, I don't see the resources, but I'm just going to trust God is going to provide. And every step of the way, provision was made. So that action was raised into me, that action of taking a leap.
I love that. Dr. Keima, I just want to say that one of the things that I loved about what you said is, having faith. And I think like a lot of people miss that part of it, miss like having the faith. How would you describe faith?
Yeah. It is definitely, for me, it's definitely as the Bible describes it, right? It is belief, it is hope, and it is quest for things unseen. I can see my cell phone. I don't need to have faith in this cell phone that it's going to work. I pay a bill every month, and if it doesn't work, I call somebody. I say, hello, Verizon, hello. Something's wrong. Fix my mouth. It's not working. Right? But for me to be able to leave an urban environment where we were working class poor, for me to get up and leave my family, we are a close-knit family. So to leave my family and go to Pennsylvania to a college I had not seen. When I applied to Albright, I went to the Barron's Guide of Colleges, and because my mother said, listen, this college thing, Keima, enough for me. So she had an expectation that we were going to go to school. She went and completed an associate's, but life took over, right? And she became a mom, and she had to survive by providing. So the college part wasn't for her. So I don't know how to help you to do this college thing, but I will feed you. Find a school you want to go to, I will feed you. That was a bargain we struck. So she would send me with food back to campus. So I went to the Barron's Guide of Colleges. I found that Albright was at the top, Haverford was in the middle, Swarthmore was at the end. These three colleges in Pennsylvania I applied to because Pennsylvania is about 3 hours from New York. Got accepted to 2, waitlisted at 1. Albright came first with the financial aid package, chose to go to Albright the first day of orientation. So sight unseen. Most people go on college tours, didn't tour it, right? So that was an act of faith, just going to this place that they call the city. Reading, Pennsylvania is not a city. That is a misnomer. That definition is really relative. I have come to find a city. So get there sight unseen. My mom, she and my siblings, they drop me off, and as the van is driving down, I start crying because I'm like, oh, this thing is real. And then I say to myself, no, that's not what we're doing here, right? And so faith was believing that I could do this without my family there. Faith is believing that this place could hold me, this institution that I chose to attend could hold me. Faith was believing that I could go on and get a master's, right? Because now I'm the first generation college graduate. So I'm gonna get a master's. I go and I get this master's, and then right after that had my son, and I'm like, but I had always imagined myself being Dr. Keima, because when I was younger with my sister Weddy, we used to play in our hallway, and I was the principal, was Dr. Pamela Washington, and she was the teacher. She would feel some kind of way that she had to be the teacher, and I was always the principal. I'm 4 years older. Why are we asking these questions? Of course I'm the principal.
Right.
Of course I'm the principal, right? So I'm the principal, and I'm building schools. I am building lesson plans. I am working with staff, a staff of one, right? I'm building my teddy bears and doll babies as students, and helping them have futures. And so there had to be a doctorate, but I have my son. I'm a solo mom. What am I going to do? 2.5, 3 years old, I decided I'm going to enroll in a program. I went through the coursework of this program where I had to travel to California. Faith, my mom, would watch him for me when I would go, and I missed so much of his upbringing because I would have to go for week and a half long intensives and then come back and do the work. Breezed through the coursework, got to the dissertation sequence, and stalled because of one comment. The comment came from an advisor who said to me, Keima, you have a wonderful lyrical voice. We need you to develop a stronger, dispassionate academic voice. What I heard her say was, you can't write word for doggone, and we have found out, right? Not what she meant, but it is how I internalized that feedback. Feedback is life. I turned it into death for me, and it became paralyzing. I could no longer write, but something deep inside of me was just not willing to let go of this program. For 2.5 years, I had fought and fought and fought to write and couldn't write. Faith kicked in, so I had a little conversation with Jesus, and he says, baby girl, listen, this is not our stock. This is not what we do. This is not where we come from. So you're going to have to figure it out. He presented a new opportunity for me to go to Immaculata, because at that time I was at Montgomery County Community College, and my vice president, who was my supervisor, called me in, and she said, Kem, what's going on with this degree? And I broke down and explained the problem. She said, well, one of the reasons why we hired you is because when I did a Google search on you, I saw you come up for Saybrook, and I listened to what you had to say about women, and I believed you. So you need to get this degree. You need to finish it. And so I said, okay. And then she explained to me that Immaculata and the college had just created a partnership. And in that partnership, I'd be able to take my classes there on campus. Right. So I applied with like 3 days, something like that. I know it was a really short time period. She agreed to be my letter of recommendation, and Faith got in. They tell me, you're going to have to start over though, because this is a different program. We'll accept some of your credit, but you're going to have to essentially start over, because this is a higher ed program. The program you were in before was around organizational systems, right? So I said, okay, Faith, all right. So I got to work, breezed through the coursework again. However, there were things happening in my personal life at the time. I was married. My husband assaulted me. Only took one time for it to happen for me to say, oh, you have lost your mind. And then I divorced him, right? So all of this is happening while I'm at the other program at Saybrook, the first program. Financial crisis. I don't know if you remember when the recession hit. Yes. I was in school when the recession hit. Wow. I was also a consultant. So my income had dropped from 6 figures to like $20,000 a year, wow. Right? Wow. And so my mom, I was like, Mommy, what am I going to do? She said, well, you will eat. Right? That's my mom's thing. That was the thing.
Whatever you do, you will not be hungry.
Right. So my son and I, we spent almost all of our meals at her place, trying to make it work. Had to save the mortgage through the mortgage home remodification or whatever program, and all these other things that require deep faith to believe that it could still happen, right? So I'm making all of my personal life happen. I'm making it work, roadblock after roadblock. I'm figuring out. School is stressing me out because school is not moving forward, but I'm having faith. I'm believing in God. I'm trusting him. And then this new program at Immaculata shows up. I'm trusting him. I'm filing for divorce while I'm in the program. I remember calling my professor one night. I said, I know I have a paper due tonight, but you see, what had happened was my husband, he lost his mind this weekend. He assaulted me. I got to go to court. I got to do some things. She said, do you need more than a week? I said, I don't even need a week. I just need a couple days to get this protection from abuse order and this divorce file. She said, Kim, take a week. I said, no. We're not giving me more time. I might not do this. So let's make the time tight. Right. So, so dealing with all of that, faith kept showing up. Faith, belief that God did not bring me this far to just leave me here. Faith that I stepped into this program almost now at this point, almost 9 years ago. And I still had not finished. And most people finish within 5 to 7 years. Faith. How am I going to get through this, God? Because I've never entered into an academic situation where I did not feel confident, where I did not feel capable. So where does faith look like? It looks like you keep pushing. It looks like you reroute. It looks like you find new tools. It looks like you expand your network. It looks like you figure out how to get up every day and keep moving forward, even though every fiber of your being does not want to. And every step you make, I'll meet you. In fact, I'll probably give you more than the step that you took. And that's literally how I inched my way along and finished that degree. That was faith, but I wasn't the only one. In my mind, I was like, I can't be the only one going through so much stuff, right?
And a lot of times, a lot of people, when they're in situations like that, they feel like they are
the only one. Yes. Like nobody could understand this. And I was like, it cannot be that I'm the only one that is experiencing this. And so that's where the dissertation was born, because back to that conversation I had with my advisor when she said I had a great lyrical voice, but I needed to have a more dispassionate academic voice. What she was saying is she wanted me to develop a voice that was standard for academia, right? White males, this is what academia was designed for, who it was designed for. And they have a particular way of believing that intelligence should be demonstrated. That did not resonate with me. I'm a storyteller, right? And for me to be authentic in this degree, I needed to find a methodology that would allow me to be a storyteller. So I found autoethnography as a methodology. And a lot of artists use autoethnography for dance, for writing in English. And so it has stood the test of time. It's now about 15 years old. It has stood the test to demonstrate its rigor. And I was able to convince my folks at Immaculata, my committee, to let me do this work and tell my story, but not just tell my story, to find the stories of other women, Christian women, who were relying on their faith to get through what I had coined their Job moments, the moments that should have knocked you off of your block, right? Just completely taking you out. And I found 5 women to talk to me. And the bottom line for all of us is that we all believed that no matter how difficult it got, our faith in meaning our belief in God was such that this too would pass. A way would be made. Opportunities would surface. Success could be had. We just needed to keep moving forward. No matter what the message or the messenger said, God's word was going to always be the final word. And so we just hooked into that and moved forward. And so for me, that's faith.
I love that. I love that. And one of the things you said a lot there, and I love everything that you had to say about that. And, really your faith journey, because I love how faith really, for me, I've experienced this too, that it's the faith journey. And it's the journey that has taken us, to get us to this place where we are. And I want to talk about this a little bit, because in that, we can have faith, but I do realize that if we're keeping it real today, that even in that faith journey, there's fear that comes along with that. So I want to talk to you a little bit about conquering fear and your encouragement to those women that you had an opportunity to speak with in your conquering fear journey as well.
Look, come on, Dwayne. So I am in my RV right now, and COVID hit 2020, and I was sitting in my house looking outside of my window on lockdown, and I was like, God, I'm going to be 50 in a few years. You said every some odd years, there should be jubilee. Debts should be forgiven. People should be able to wipe slates clean. I'm wanting the next half of my life to feel like freedom, God. I really wanted to be free. So I took stock. I said, okay, you have this mortgage, you have this, you have student loans, you have that. What are we doing about that? Because we really want to be free. So that idea evolved into waiting for my son, who at the time was a sophomore, waiting for him to finish high school. And once he finished high school, I was like, okay, it's time for me to start conquering fears. Because the only way that I can have freedom is if I face fear head on. It is not to say that your fear disappears. In fact, it may not even dissipate. Like it may stay with you and be strong. Exactly. Strong. But you do it anyway. You do it along with, right? So some fears that I had, that I was going to place my faith over my fear on this jubilee journey, this freedom journey, is traveling in this country. Since I've had a passport since I was 5, so I've traveled the world, but this country, racism is real. Racism is real.
Yes.
And when you listen to the messages that come across the airwaves, they are even more amplified, right?
Yes.
When you listen to the news, and that's with intention, that the news is designed to create a particular narrative about me, about you, about white people, about all kinds of folks.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, scared of the South, scared of the Midwest. The coasts I can handle. East Coast, West Coast I can handle. So let's travel south. When we drop our son off at college, when I drop him off in August, let's keep digging deep in the South. So that's what I did. I'm doing it solo, or let me give him some credit, because he doesn't like when I say that. I do have this Boston Terrier. It's a dog, and every time I say I'm doing it solo, he side eyes me like, ma'am. Okay, you pull me from my family.
We are a duo. What are you talking
about? We are doing this, ma'am. So,
I love that.
So I traveled the Deep South and learned some interesting lessons about Southerners and hospitality, about my ability to actually find spaces where I did feel welcomed. Some lessons on history that were corrected for me or amplified for me. And then it was time to take a break for Christmas with the family. And then I said, okay, time to go out west. I'm even more afraid of the West than I am the South, because the land is a lot more expansive. And I feel like the thinking about people of color is so deeply entrenched that it was worrisome. I was actually on my way west this past week, but the weather has been really bad. So I can't do that. So I have to turn around and come back. And I'm going to just come back south because I'm going to eventually actually end up in North Carolina where I'm building a tiny home.
Okay.
So let me tell you about fear. So I spent a lot of time nurturing my mind, right? I spent a lot of time in here absorbing as much content as I could, refining this brain. I did not spend any time learning how to trust these. If something went wrong in the apartment, we called the super. Super! The thing not working.
Right. Exactly.
So if my uncle, who used to live with us during the time, jack of all trades, if he wasn't around to fix it, super was called. And so I just learned how to develop a Rolodex, because that's my age, of people I would call when something went wrong. But I want to learn how to trust these. Right? Because there may not be someone who's around who can fix it. And I'm at that place in my life where I'm like, you can do a little more, learn how to do a little more. So on the journey, I've had to learn how to fix things on the RV. I would call folks up, either my brother-in-law or my RV tech. So, okay, here's the issue. And we would troubleshoot it together and fix it together. And I can't tell you how empowering that felt, because a big part of can I do this solo was what's going to happen when me solo on the road. Can I protect myself? I know I can fight, but like, can I really protect myself in all kinds of situations? And what if something breaks? So getting on the road, knowing that these two things are still a reality, and being able to address both of those things, where I trust my gut. So if something doesn't feel right, I'm out. And if something breaks, I'm learning how to fix it. That's conquering fear. Is it still there? Absolutely. Because when I thought about going west, it came all the way back again strong. Right? So it doesn't necessarily go away. When I get to North Carolina to build a tiny house, I have a builder who's going to help teach me how to build my house so that I can learn how to fix it. Right?
That
so
is
I can
awesome.
Fix it. Yeah.
That is so awesome. So
doing it with fear, though. Doing it with fear. And
I understand it. I think that, and that's the key thing, is that just because you're fearful doesn't mean that you can't do it. I think a lot of times we feel fearful and think that we can't do it, so we don't try. So the key thing is to try to do it. I love that. We are talking today with Dr. Keimasheriff, a journey woman. So I want to talk to you about that title, a journey woman. How did you come up with that title for yourself?
So I'm a coach, and I do coach people, but I like to think of myself as a journey woman because I'm a Trekkie. I don't know if you ever watched a Star Trek episode, but
I grew up with my grandmother and grandfather. We didn't miss an episode.
Okay, good. So let's go to Next Generation with Captain Jean-Luc Picard, the captain of the ship. And this is the one where Whoopi Goldberg was actually Guinan, right? And she would manage 10 Forward, which was essentially their bar. And anytime Captain Picard had a question, he would go to Guinan to ask her wisdom, her advice, because she was a long living soul. Like, her people just lived for a really, really long time. So they've seen life happen in cycles. So what seems like sage advice to us is just them seeing the cycles of life, right? Okay. So he would go to her all the time to ask her questions and seeking the answer. And Guinan, rather than giving him the answer, would ask him questions so that he could evolve into his own answer. And so as I coach, that's typically how I coach. I'm on the journey with you, but my job is not really to give you an answer. My job is to pull questions out of you as you evolve into your own answer. So that's that's how I became a journeywoman. It's funny because I was just having a conversation with my son earlier, asking him a series of questions. And I know in the back of his mind, he was like, here she go coaching me. Here she go. Here she go, Lord. Here she go. Let me just humor her, answer these questions.
Right. I love that. I'm the same way. I'm a coach as well, and I do that a lot. Like when I'm talking to different family members, my niece and my nephew who recently moved with me about 6 months ago, that live with me, and I'm all when we're talking and we're having conversation, they're asking me questions. I'm like turning it back on them. Like, so what do you think about this? And what would you do if you? Because like my job, I always tell you, it's not to give you advice. Most of the time, we already have the answer inside of us. And we already know what's bubbling in our gut to tell us what to do. It's just that we need some validation to say, like, this is how I should go forth and do it. But I always think about this, too. What if that person's not around at the moment? That's when you learn, for me, to trust the Holy Spirit, to lead and guide us, because that's his job.
That's his job. That's his job. And to begin listening and trusting ourselves. I think a lot of times the reason why we want others to give us the answers because we just don't quite trust ourselves, right? And so learning how to be empowered enough to trust, not that you will always get it right, because that's not the point. The point isn't to always get it right. The point is to develop the muscle so that when you are in doubt, you're like, no, I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to trust that this is the decision that I'm going to make, and we'll see how it will evolve. It will either work out well or it will teach me lessons. Either way, there's no loss.
Either way, you're going to get something from it.
There's no loss.
So staying in that same vein, and I'm going to start wrapping up our conversation because I can sit and talk to you all day. But for our viewers' sake, I want them to continue to want to come back and join and say, this show is too long. But staying in that same vein, I want to talk to like just some tips or some guidance that you can give to those who will be watching this show to talk about like how to start trusting yourself. Like when it comes to like goal setting, when you're thinking about setting goals and thinking about achieving the things that you so desire to do, what are some tips that people can, that you would give to individuals to help them to get on that journey to achieving those things they so desire to do?
Absolutely. I think the first thing is to really figure out if you like yourself. I think that's the first thing we get to do. You can like other people and love other people and not like and love yourself. The spaces where you say, so you get a list, like what are the things you like about yourself? And you realize, okay, I like 5 things about myself. Okay, what are the things you don't like about yourself? 20 things I don't like about myself. What do you love about yourself? I don't really know. The like and the love are the first places I would say this is where we get to do some work. The like and the love, right? And creating goals around how you can begin to shift things off of one side of the ledger onto the other, so that you have very few things that you don't like about yourself. You always will say, I love myself, right? And so how do you do that? How do you practically do that? I think part of the way that we practically do it is that we begin to get in touch with ourselves physically. I tell people sometimes, like I ask them, okay, so when you are done taking a bath, what do you do? And they're like, I put my clothes on. If they're black, they're like, I put some grease on, right? It's like, okay. So it's like, okay, how do you do that? Right? And so I might get, you know, I'm like, oh, so you just be abusing yourself, right? Knocking yourself the hell out. Like if I'm greasing my skin, I'm gonna go to bed.
Yes.
Let's actually take some time and love on and look at the things that we don't want to see. Let's look at the things that we don't really want to see and appreciate it for what it is, what it's doing for us in that moment, what it's given us, right? If it's your pouch, your belly, whatever. Listen, that belly held you up. It held you up. So let's not reject the belly, right? But I get that. Maybe you're saying now is time for me to shift into a new way of being, and I'd like to define more muscle, more strength in my belly. Okay, that's cool. That's an evolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's create a goal around that. Are you fearful that for the 100th time you've tried this and it's going to not work? That's normal. That's fine. But maybe at this point, your desire for it is so different than it has been in the past that you might decide, I'm going to do 5 sit ups today. I did 1. Okay. I'm going to 5 sit ups tomorrow. I did 1.5.
Yeah.
5 sit ups the next day. I did 2.
Exactly.
Right? So we're counting every increment, every opportunity that we decided to do this thing as a way of growing into the goal and choosing to not listen to the fear, the self-doubt, the negative talk, because it's going to be there. The fear that we're talking about is about the self-talk. It's about the harm that we do to ourselves. That's why I asked, how do you feel about you? Do you like yourself? Do you love yourself? Because that negative self-talk, you have to counteract it with something. Now, in the beginning, it may not be that you believe that you're beautiful. In the beginning, you might have to just say, I'm beautiful. Here's a trick. Your brain doesn't know the difference. Your brain doesn't know the difference. If you say you're ugly, your brain says, okay, you're ugly. If you say you're beautiful, your brain says, okay, you're beautiful. But what will begin to happen, hopefully, is that you'll begin to release some good chemicals in your body. And you begin to believe that you are beautiful. You begin to believe that you do have value. You begin to believe that you do have worth. These things help you combat the fear. When you decide that your life is just worth more than you have given it, even if it's incrementally a little bit, just more than you have given it, that's enough to combat fear. Remember, fear will not go away. It just exists with us. It's a part of, and again, I'm speaking from my faith practice, it's a part of sin. It's a part of the brokenness. We're all broken, and fear exists in that brokenness. But if you remind yourself of the promises of God, right, that you are not to be harmed, but to be prospered, right?
Yes.
If you believe the promises of God, that you are to live an abundant life. If you believe the promises of God, that you are a conqueror, right? And that you are victorious, and all of this happens in Him. It takes some of the pressure off, because when you start feeling really weak in your faith, in your fear, you turn to the promises. You're like, God, look, I ain't got it. So
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
what you gonna do? Hello. Can you prove it? Can you prove the word to me right now? Because I ain't got it.
Right.
God quickly shows up and He's like, my child, when, oh when, will you figure this out? Let me help this baby again, so she could see I got her. Right? It is a lifelong practice of stepping into. And for some of us, it may be really small. It may not be something like me, where I just sell everything and I'm like, okay, I'm going to sell everything. I'm going to travel. I'm just going to travel, and then I'm going to build a house, and then I'm going to see where we land after that. It may not be that, right? It may be you deciding that you wanted to get this degree, but when life happened, it derailed you. And now you think you might be too old to get this degree, but you secretly really want this degree. So you go after this degree, even though it's been 20 years since you wrote a paper or answered anything that looked like a mathematical formula. You still go after it.
Yes.
And God will give you the brain. You pray. That's another part of the faith and fear. I have a morning devotion practice every single morning. I get up and I do my devotions. I read my scripture. I write out my prayers in my journal. You begin to see, if you write it out, you can track how you went from being very afraid of something, very worried that you couldn't do something, to seeing how not only are you doing it and praying God's strength into it, but now you're on to the next thing, and on to the next thing, and on to the next thing, right? So having a strong prayer life is a very powerful part. Deciding that you're going to do something, as small as it might be, deciding that you're going to do it. You walk up to somebody and be like, "You are beautiful," without any desire for that
Mhm.
person to be connected to you. Because if your issue is confidence, go do that. Go tell somebody how beautiful they are. Look
Yes.
how it will make them smile, and look how it'll make you smile in the process, right? So it's finding small things to do to build up to that bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and recognizing that fear, it does not go away. But what you do learn how to do is harness that son of a gun. So you can.
I have to say, Dr. Kimma, thank you so much. I am so grateful for this opportunity to be able to talk with you, and I look forward to speaking with you again. Before we conclude our conversation this evening, is there any final thoughts or any final things that you would like to share with the viewers?
Yeah, I just want to remind all of us that we get to have lives that are not crippled. We just
Mm.
get to have lives that are not paralyzed. We get to have lives where we are able to jump into whatever it is that we'd like to do. I said I want to be at a beach. I want to wake up at a beach. I'm at a beach. Just waking up at a beach. I'm from Crown Heights, Brooklyn, New York. African parents. We didn't get into the fact that I'm 2 years into mourning the loss of my mom, but I'm
Mm.
at this beach that I said I wanted to be at because I just fully believe that God conspires to move the entire universe to meet the desires of his daughter, and he does the same for you, each and every one of us.
Wow, Dr. Kimma, thank you so much. Oh, I hope and pray that you will come back and be a part of A Human Being.
Absolutely.
Again, this was a
Absolutely.
wonderful conversation. There's so many other things I wanted to talk to you about, but for the sake of time, I don't want the people to be like, "Hey, you can't watch it. It's too long. It's a motion picture, right?" But everybody, give it up for Dr. Keima Sharif, and we'll make sure that we put our information out there. So if you want to get in contact with her, whatever she's willing to share with you, if it's coaching, if it's anything educational, please, you can get in contact with Dr. Keima. We'll make sure that we have that information below. Thank you again, Dr. Keima. I hope you have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
evening, and thank
You
you for
do the
joining A
same.
Human Being.
Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you.
Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on A Human Being.
To inspire, to uplift, different people share their gifts. A safe space and open door on a journey to explore human beings.